After a 30-0 blowout win against the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers were unfortunately back to their old ways on Sunday in New England, losing 42-13. Let's look back at the good, the bad, and the ugly from the Panthers' loss up in New England.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Carolina Panthers going on the road to New England, getting off to a strong start, but then everything flipped after Dave Canales decided, let's run the ball on 3rd and 10, get 2 yards, then punt the ball from New England's 43. Then it was returned 87 yards and 42 straight points were scored right then and there as New England won 42-13 up there. And Foxborough will look back at the keys to victory that I gave you on Friday and see how Carolina did. Spoiler alert, did not do great in one of those departments. We'll also go over what Dave Canales had to say on Monday when speaking to the media after reviewing the film. But let's first go over, as we do every single Tuesday, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which there is a lot of ugly from the Panthers' 42-13 loss up in New England against the Patriots. As always, we start off with the positive. We start off with the good. Not a lot of good, but there were a few things to look at and actually think pretty positively about. And number one, in my opinion, was the involvement of the Panthers tight ends. That has been a recurring weakness and issues since really Greg Olsen had the foot injury back in 2018 and his last year in 2019. Then when he left to go to Seattle during 2020, the Panthers have had problems trying to replace that production. And this has been historically a franchise. When we look at Wesley Walls, you look at Greg Olsen, even maybe Chris Mangum and Dante Rosario, they have had tight ends who have been a part of the passing game. That has not really been the case over the last 5+ years, but with JT Sanders being drafted last year in the 4th round and the way he performed in the middle part of that season and his finale also against Atlanta, to now where you bring in Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame in the 5th round back in the draft back in April, you look at the tight end room and feel like, okay, this actually could be a plus, an additive for the Panthers offense moving forward. JT Sanders was out on Sunday. He's week to week with a high ankle sprain, and you got really solid production from the guys who are available on Sunday in Tommy Tremble, Mitchell Evans, and James Mitchell as well. Tommy Tremble, 5 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown, the opening touchdown of the game for Carolina. Mitchell Evans, 3 receptions, 23 yards, and his first career touchdown in the NFL to close out the game there on Sunday when Andy Dalton was in for mop-up duty. James Mitchell had 2 receptions, 17 yards. In total, that's 10 receptions, 82 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I had real concern about what the Panthers were going to get out of the tight ends in the passing game with JT out over the next, I would imagine, a couple of weeks with a high ankle sprain. But after watching Sunday, especially with what's going on with receiver, where Tedero McMillan's the only one at this point in time you can rely on as they wait for Jalen Coker to get back. An update on him momentarily. They wait for Xavier Legette to come back and to also be a productive player in that offense. If they're going to get 10 receptions, 82 yards, and 2 touchdowns from the tight ends, you're going to take that every single week the rest of the year, especially when JT is not out there, which I expect to be the case again on Sunday when Miami comes to town. So that is certainly a positive from Sunday, the involvement of those tight ends. The opening drive touchdown, back-to-back weeks, Carolina has got one this Sunday with 7 plays, 76 yards. Bryce Young, of course, finding Tommy Tremble for that 7-yard touchdown. You like to see him get off to good starts. That was something they did not do week 1 in Jacksonville, week 2 in Arizona with the turnovers. They did it in week 3 at home against Atlanta. They did it again on Sunday. Unfortunately, they were not able to close out that drive on the second drive of the game, where then things flipped upside down for Carolina up there at Foxborough. So yeah, opening drive touchdown. You'll take those every single week, but this is also a reminder that just because you start off the game with a touchdown on the opening drive does not mean it's a portender to success for the rest of the game, because that's the script. You would hope on the opening script you score, but after that, can you adjust to what the defense is doing to you? Can you continue to do things properly, correctly, and be able to execute, which Carolina failed to do the rest of the way. But opening drive touchdown, take that as a positive. No turnovers. First time this season there's not been a turnover. Last week against Atlanta, the only turnover was by Trevor Etienne on a special teams punt return fumble that was muffed there. But on Sunday, no turnovers. So that's good. You played clean football, but a lot of things did not go well. So that is the good from the loss up in New England. The bad, plenty of it. We'll only focus on 3 things. The inability to finish drives certainly was a big piece of what we saw on Sunday. And Dave Canales mentioned that they just fizzled out offensively once they got into New England territory, which they did multiple times, especially in the first half. You go back to that 3rd and 10 where they're at the New England 45, an opportunity already up 6-0 to go up by 2 scores potentially and to throw the ball. Instead, Dave Canales decided they wanted to run the ball in that situation. And he said that he liked the looks that they were getting, felt like they had an advantage as far as what they were lining up wise, as far as the formations for New England, and didn't execute on that play. They got 2 yards on that draw play to Rico Dowdle, and then they punted for New England's 43. So that drive fizzled out, I think, mainly because of the play call. Then you look at another drive where they're on the New England 41, where it ends up, they ran the ball on 2nd and 10 and lost a yard. So twice you're seeing them not have successful runs that are ending drives, putting them behind the sticks. And that happened again later on that drive as they punted. And then that's when Sam Martin punted the ball into the end zone. I think I might have called him Ryan Martin yesterday, now that I'm thinking about it, but Sam Martin had a bad touchback there that led to New England later on scoring a touchdown on that drive, not because the fact he didn't pin him down there, but had he pinned him, would have had more success, I'm imagining, on that drive, as the playbook would have been limited for Josh McDaniels and the New England Patriots offense. You had another drive where they ended up kicking a field goal, but missed that. But Bryce Young and Carolina, they were 2nd and 5 on New England's 26 after a successful run by Chuba Hubbard on 1st down, and then he gets sacked, loses 11 yards, and have to kick the ball from the 37, which was a missed field goal by Ryan Fitzgerald, his first missed field goal of his career here in Carolina. And other drives fizzling at the New England 35, New England 41 in the second half. Only 1 red zone possession while the game was still in doubt. Yes, they had one later on in the game. They were actually 2 for 2 in the red zone, so that would be a positive as well. But you would rather get to the red zone early in the game, put pressure on New England, especially on that second drive of the game, instead of punt and run the ball on 3rd and 10 because you like the look. Did not love that at all. So that is the bad, the inability to finish the drives. Injuries as well, kind of starting to pile up for Carolina. They were down to 3 wide receivers at the end of the game: Tedero McMillan, Hunter Renfrow, Bryson Tremaine, because Xavier Legette, of course, was not active as he was coming back from that hamstring, still is. More on that momentarily. Jalen Coker is yet to play this season so far. They traded away Adam Thielen. Plenty of questions about that we'll talk about on Wednesday, on the weekly Wednesday mailbag here on Locked On Panthers. But David Moore went out on the first play of the game with an elbow injury. Was actually carted off. Never seen anyone carted off with an elbow. So that just tells you how much pain he was in at that moment in time. Delvon Campbell, who was active for the 2nd week in a row. He was the guy who was undrafted free agent out of South Carolina, who they picked up off of waivers after cut down day. He was a gunner again. Hurt his hamstring, so they were down only 3 guys. Chandler Zabala also went out with a knee injury, and they had Brandon Walton come in. Brady Christensen was not the first one called, which was very interesting to hear about that. So injuries, they were starting to pile up, especially when you look at receivers. So need to get some of these guys healthy for the offense to certainly take a step in the right direction starting on Sunday against Miami. And then for the defense, a big step back. They had gotten off to a terrible start, really, in the first 6 quarters, but the last 6 quarters, looking at the second half against Arizona and then the entire game against Atlanta, it looked like maybe they were turning a corner. Now, obviously, too soon to say that, but quite possibly was this the beginning, as they invested a lot when it came to the defensive front, especially the defensive line. They brought in new edge rushers with Pat Jones II, drafting Prince Uman and also drafting Nick Scorton. They brought in Trevon Merrick. They spent a ton of resources to get the defense to be better, and they already had foundational pieces like J.C. Horn, like Derek Brown, and you thought maybe it was actually going to be real. But they had their worst EPA performance of the season on Sunday, a minus 12.98 EPA. And speaking of just the edge rushers, the pass rush is non-existent so far here in Carolina through 4 weeks of the season. Pat Jones did not play in this game. Neither did DJ Wonnum. It was an opportunity for Nick Scorton to start again for the second week in a row. For DJ Johnson, he started because they wanted him out there on rundowns, and he did not do the best job in those situations. And then Princely Uman getting an opportunity as well. Looking at it, the Panthers are last in the NFL in havoc rate at 12%. What is havoc rate? It equals the percent of defensive plays with a tackle for loss, forced fumble, interception, pass breakup, or sack. The Panthers are not getting people behind the sticks. They have gotten interceptions, and really that's been the only havoc plays we've seen from them, but that's not been great from the defense so far overall in terms of creating havoc. They're tied 30th with New Orleans with a 25.4% PFF pressure percentage coming over from our friends over at True Media. And that's barely, like 25.3 is where Miami, who's coming to town on Sunday, is at. So by 0.1% of percentage points, they are better than the Dolphins, but tied with New Orleans, who is probably, if not Tennessee, the worst team in the NFL this season. They've dropped from 8th in defensive EPA to 16th. That's how big of a drop back they had from where they were on Sunday last week against Atlanta to this past Sunday against New England. And now the ugly special teams, more on that later. Another blowout loss. That's really the thing I'm looking at this point in time. The Panthers followed up a 30-0 win at home against Atlanta, where everybody was feeling good about themselves for a week, and then go out there, start off well, but then give up 42 straight and lose 42-13. They now, in their losses, have a minus 50-point differential this season. Dave Canales is 6-15 as the Panthers head coach. If you look at those 15 losses, I would argue that 9 of them have been non-competitive, and his average margin of defeat at this point in time is 18.2 points per game. They're losing by 3 touchdowns every time they lose, at least on average when they lose. That is what's happening. These aren't a bunch of 1-2 point games. These aren't even like a 1 touchdown type of game that they are playing, but they are getting blown out when they lose, which is just unacceptable for this point in time. You have more non-competitive losses than wins at this point, 21 games into your tenure. So that is the good, the bad, and the ugly from the Panthers' 42-13 loss up in New England. Dave Canales met with the media this afternoon on Monday. We'll go over some of the things he had to say here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. You know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but feel stiff, hot, and high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they perfected it ever since. Matter of fact, I'm wearing a Mizzen and Main shirt right now. No, they did not send me this shirt. This is a shirt I bought 3 years ago when I was on Bald Head Island, and I have loved it ever since. Their shirts are stretchy, moisture wicking, wrinkle resistant, and machine washable. No ironing, no dry cleaning. I love that you can go from the office to dinner or even out on the golf course and still feel comfortable all day long. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDON NFL20. That's Mizzen spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N and Main, MAIN.com. Promo code LOCKEDON NFL20 for 20% off. And if you rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Panthers head coach Dave Canales met with the local media on Zoom on Monday afternoon. I had the pleasure to be on that Zoom call to hear about what he had to say after reviewing the film for the Panthers' 42-13 loss up in New England. He said that they were out-executed by the Patriots, which you look at it, you lost 42-13. Gave it 42 straight points. So, yeah, obviously, Dave, you were out-executed, you're out-coached, out-schemed, all of it. And he said it after the game on Sunday that when it happens in all three phases, the common denominator is him. So he took full blame for the loss on Sunday, which, hell, man, what else are you going to do at that point in time? So I do respect that he's willing to take the full blame, but he's getting all the blame from, I think, everybody on the outside, of course, after things went the way they went up there in Foxborough. He mentioned the explosive plays that were allowed on defense and on special teams and how they fizzled out offensively. And there's questions now about what are they going to do as far as personnel? Like, are there going to be some guys that you move on from? You're going to try to bring in some guys to help you out there. Obviously, the linebacker play is something that's true. A lot of fans ire through the first 4 weeks of the season. Wide receiver, but you need to get healthy there. Maybe you bring somebody in. The other guys get opportunities. We'll see how that all plays out. And he said overall, they're still gathering information about who they are. And he was asked about coaching changes. Everyone wants Ejiro Evero fired. I totally understand it. You look at just where they've been, and I was looking at some numbers today. I mean, since he's taken over, y'all, speaking of have havoc rate, the Panthers are 30th in the NFL since 2023 in havoc rate, and they are last in pressure percentage. So that's just not great. It's not just the fact that they're not getting to the quarterback. They're not forcing turnovers, not forcing negative plays. They aren't getting pass breakups. The things that you need to do to have a successful defense are not happening during Ejiro Evero's tenure here, or at least haven't happened with regularity and efficiency during his time here. But as of this moment, Dave Canales says he does not anticipate any coaching changes at this time. Now, you back to last year, after week 2, that horrible performance by Bryce Young against the Chargers, he said Bryce would be the quarterback. He came back the next day after reviewing film, and he saw how the entire team was reacting to him, and it made a change. He already reviewed film, and he's saying they're not making a change. So I would say this, and we'll talk more about Dave as far as what it's going to mean for him if they continue to play like this. And David Tepper, yes, I saw the video that was put out there, I believe, by David Newton and many other media members who were up there in New England on Sunday, and just how he was unhappy walking with Dan Morgan. Of course he's unhappy. They lost by 29 points. He embarrassed himself yet again with the decisions that he has made by who he's put in charge and some of the players they have brought in who have not been able to execute, which you keep hearing about the lack of execution. It's kind of like nails on a chalkboard at this point in time, at least for me, because it's the same conversation that Sam Darnold would have every single week in Carolina, where it's like, we're not executing. It's like, why aren't you executing? Why can't you be consistent? These are the questions. And honestly, like, the position I sit in, where like I am in the position to actually be in the locker room, to talk to the guys, to be in those press conferences and ask Dave questions, like, I feel like an a-hole after game, because like you want to ask, hey, like, what's going on here? And you ask them, why are these things not happening? And they're telling you they're not executing. And you just want to follow up, be like, why aren't you executing? Like, what's keeping you from executing these plays? So it's just so difficult after losses, because it's really the blame game that you're playing. Yes, the opponent played well, but there's things that the Panthers did wrong, especially in a 29-point loss, that you want to get the answers. And oftentimes they don't have answers, because they did have answers to those problems and they would have solved them. And they're trying to figure out what exactly they are as a team and how to solve these issues so they don't have another performance like they had on Sunday the rest of the season moving forward. So we'll see. And they still don't have an identity. He talks about it's that they play hard and with great effort and all of that. Okay, I didn't really see great effort yesterday. I guess it's cool they scored at the end of the game, but that really means nothing. When you're down 42-6 at that point in time, you've already taken your quarterback out and all the other consequential offensive players. Yeah, I don't know. But again, as far as the third down run, he said they had an advantage with some of the fronts they were getting and thought that they had a clean look, and it didn't work out. Some injury updates. Xavier Legette, he is day-to-day. He's missed the last 2 weeks, of course, the hamstring injury. If he's day-to-day, I'd feel pretty good potentially about him practicing this week. I'll be there on Wednesday. It will not be at practice, be in the locker room, and I'll be there for when Dave and Bryce talk. So I'm sure we'll get to talk to XL then. If not Thursday, don't typically go on Thursdays, but maybe if he's going to be there, I'll go talk to him on Thursday. But he's day to day. Jalen Coker, he's week to week still, and they can open up his window. The 4 weeks that he's been on IR, they can now try to have the what's it called? They can open the window for him to return to play. So they can do all of that. He has 21 days to do so. As I told y'all last week, I did not get the impression that he would be playing coming up on Sunday. And in hearing that they're taking it week to week, maybe they open up his return to practice window. You don't want to open it up too soon, because if he's not active after those 21 days, and he's done for the season. So that's not what the Panthers want to do. So he probably will not be playing on Sunday. And then Jimmy Horn, been a lot of questions about him. Why is he not getting a chance to return kicks? And I asked Dave about how David Moore potentially impacted the return game. Instead, he just told me about Trevor Etienne, and, he's got to do a better job not returning kicks inside the 5, which, yeah, duh, but he didn't really answer anything about kind of what I was asking, because Hunter got an opportunity as well. Maybe I'll just be more direct and be like, hey, is Jimmy Horn going to get a chance to return kicks on Sunday? I'll do that on Wednesday. But Jimmy Horn will get an opportunity this week. So he'll get a jersey for the first time this season. That's what Dave Canales said. He's going to get an opportunity, especially when you have David Moore out. Jalen Coker going to be out again, it looks like. And if you have XL, so that would be XL, McMillan, Hunter Renfrow, Bryson Tremaine, and then Jimmy Horn Jr. would be the 5 receivers up there on Sunday. So big opportunity for him. And if XL is not available, obviously even bigger opportunity for him to show what he can do in a return game and potentially on offense. And then Brady Christensen, another guy where I said this on Sunday's show when I was live with y'all here on YouTube. I went up to him and I was just like, hey, so like, how are you feeling about what's going on here and like the situation with the injuries and what those guys are bringing? And then you're not up there. And he's just like, I'm going to wait my time, be the best team I can be, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of like, dude, come on. Are you not like a little bit pissed off that you're not playing, that they put Josh Nijman out there ahead of you, and Josh Nijman's like the worst guy that they could put there in that left tackle position, and he gave up a ton of pressures week 1? Are you not mad that Chandler Zavala is getting an opportunity ahead of you when you're a better player than Chandler Zavala? Well, they put in Brandon Walton on Sunday when Chandler went down, but Dave now has said that Brady Christensen, the plan right now is for him to be starting at right guard on Sunday, which kind of crazy how that's played out. The guy came back here and he's your 10th. Sorry, because Nijman, yeah, he's your 10th option. What? So those are some of the things that Dave Canales had to say, and of course my reactions to it. On Fridays, I give you my 3 keys of victory for the Panthers on that upcoming Sunday, and on Tuesdays we review how they did. And buddy, did they fail spectacularly when it came to one of those? Talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond a usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to RUGIET.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDON NFL. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. Every Friday throughout the season here on Locked On Panthers, I give you my 3 keys of victory for the Carolina Panthers in their upcoming game that Sunday. And on Tuesdays, we go back and review how the Panthers did with those 3 keys. And, well, today they did okay on one of them. They did really well on one, and then they did really bad on the other. Number one, win the turnover battle. They did not win a turnover battle, but they did not lose a turnover battle because there were no turnovers on Sunday. Both Drake May and Bryce Young, the 2 quarterbacks who have struggled taking care of the football the first 3 weeks of the season, said it would be up to those guys to take care of which one failed at that. Likely his team would lose, which has been the case in all the losses for Carolina up until, of course, Sunday, and all the losses for New England. Well, Drake did a great job taking care of the football. So did Bryce. There were no turnovers in this game, not even on special teams. So congratulations to both New England and both Carolina for holding on to the football. First time this year, Carolina has not turned the ball over. So they did not win the turnover battle. So I guess they failed at that key because they were not able to force any turnovers, have any havoc plays. But they took care of the ball offensively for the second week in a row. And that is something certainly to look at and be happy about if you're trying to find any sort of positives from the Panthers' performance on Sunday. Number 2, continue success against the run, aside from the Patriots possession where they went up 14-6. And that's when Nick Scorton missed a tackle and when DJ Johnson completely fell for it off looking out what they had formationally in New England. And then later on in that drive when Drake ran it in and had a nice little Superman homage to Cam Newton. Yeah, I thought they were decent against the run. They allowed 104 yards, 3.6 yards per carry. The Panthers actually had their best EPA against the run this season defensively and their second best rushing success rate against the run. So I did not think they were bad against the run. 104 yards is still 104 yards, but 3.6 yards per carry. It's really what we got to look at. And then, of course, EPA. I mean, that's another, and success rate, I think, are more important in points of time. So I thought they were fine against the run. That's 3 straight weeks now. You look at Atlanta, where they did give up 140 yards, but most of those happened on the final drive of the game where the Falcons were shamelessly trying to kick a field goal to not get shut out. And looking at Arizona, they've done, a decent job against the run, especially when you consider they had 7 straight games going back to last year. They had given up 200 plus yards on the ground. That has ended 3 straight weeks. Good thing there. The number 3, special teams. The Panthers entered the game 11th in the NFL in special teams EPA. New England was 18th. I said on Friday, with the way Ryan Fitzgerald had kicked, being 5 for 5 on extra points and on field goals, the dirty kickoffs that they were trying, that the Panthers had a decided advantage. We did not see the dirty kickoffs on Sunday. The first kickoff was kicked in the end zone, a touchback, which I believe now goes to the 35. Can't keep up with the kickoff rules. They keep changing it, and it's kind of stupid what they're doing in the NFL, if we're being honest. But whatever. So I thought they had a decided advantage. Sam Martin was doing a great job, and punts where the field position was starting for the opponents was top 5, both on kickoff returns and on punt returns. So the Panthers were doing a great job in all those categories, and then it all fell apart on Sunday. And it started with Ryan Fitzgerald missing his extra point on the Panthers opening drive. And then the day really got off to a horrible start after that. Once they decided to punt the ball, Marcus Jones returned 87 yards, should have been probably like a loss of 2 if Caleb Evans just tackles him, or if the rest of the gang gets there in time. Instead, Jones races down the sideline, scores a touchdown. Ryan Martin had a punt into the end zone for the Patriots 41. Just disgusting to see something like that. It's not Ryan, it's Sam Martin. That's why I said Ryan Martin, because I wrote down Ryan Martin. Sam Martin had a punt into the end zone for the Patriots 44. Again, horrible. Marcus Jones, another 61-yard punt return. This one not for a touchdown because Sam Martin was able to tackle. Dilworth Neighborhood Grill putting out there on their sign on Monday, at least the punter can tackle. So, haha, funny, I suppose. But yeah, that led to a touchdown. Trevor Etienne fielding a punt inside the Panthers 5. I have to imagine that Jimmy Horn has to be getting a chance to return punts. If Trevor is going to fumble and if he's going to return punts inside the 5, he can't return punts. He leave him on kickoff, but Jimmy Horn Jr., if he's going to play on Sunday, which that's what Dave Canales said, let him have an opportunity, because certainly he can hopefully do a better job and has more experience doing that. Trevor didn't even return punts back in college, other than like maybe 1 or 2 times. He talked to me about this in the locker room, how it's still, he's getting used to it. And clearly it ain't gone well so far. The Panthers EPA on special teams on Sunday was a minus 11.73. And that means New England added 11.73 points off of that because of course, the touchdown that they scored off of a punt, another touchdown. I mean, all that just not great. It was the worst special teams EPA performance since November 18th, 2018 in Detroit, where they had a minus 12.48. That was the game where Graham Gano missed a field goal, also missed an extra point in that game. That then led Carolina to, I guess they, instead of going for the tie at the end of that game, they decided to go for 2 and the win on the road. Had Graham made his kicks that day, that doesn't happen. I do distinctly remember being at Selwyn Ave Pub drinking a bunch of transfusions that day. But yeah, did not work out for Carolina on that Sunday or this past Sunday, where I would argue that was a much worse special teams performance than the one that they had up in Detroit, but EPA would disagree. So that is the review of Keys victory from last Friday. Again, on Friday, I'll give you my keys to victory against Miami this Sunday at Bank of America Stadium. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe and follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, where tomorrow I'm answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. And I'll just tell you, if you have a question about Dave Canales, so many people have asked me about Dave Canales. If you have a question about the wide receivers, people already asked me about that. So if you have a question about literally anything else other than Dave Canales' job status, Ejiro Evero's job status, the wide receivers' job status, at me or DM me over on Twitter and over on Blue Sky at Julian Council and ask me those questions. And you have a great chance of having your question on the show because everybody's asking the same thing, which I understand. Questions that need answers, very pressing things about the state of the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to answer those. But if you have anything other than Dave, Ejiro, and the wide receivers, I can answer that question for you. So hit me up there and we'll talk about it on Wednesday. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole as always, keep pounding, and I'll talk to y'all on Wednesday.